Having traveled a lot in my life, I've had the great opportunity to come across many different cultures. And it always fascinated me how similar we could be, but at the same time, so different. But what fascinated me even more was how cultures could interpret the same thing, but differently. For example, I started looking into this phenomenon, and I came across the bow wow theory. So what is the bow wow theory? This theory says that languages are derived from people mimicking animal sounds. And because people hear animal sounds differently, therefore we have different languages. We hear the same sounds, though. When a dog barks in Armenia, in China, Brazil, Italy, the US, we're all hearing the same dog barking. And it pretty much sounds like something roof, roof, right? But in China, when they want to mimic the sound of a dog barking, they say wang, wang. In Armenia, we say huff, huff. US, woof, woof. Italy, bow, bow. And it's not only animal sounds. It could be a river. It could be running water. It could be a baby crying. Some parts of the world, a baby crying could be heard as boo-hoo. Other places, wah, wah. So I want to tell you an interesting story that happened with me. When I was 10, 11 years old, me and my father went to the store to buy some office supplies. Now, just to give you some context, my father is Armenian from Iran. So we go to the store, we walk around, we get everything that we need, we make our way out to the checkout, and the cashier that was standing there was a very nice lady of Asian origins. So as she's checking us out, she asks a question to my dad. And to that question, my dad answers with a, huh? Now, this lady was startled at best and distraught. But she continued to check us out and asked the question again, and this is where it gets better. So my dad this time around understood what she was saying and replied with a. So now this lady thinks that we're crazy and wants nothing to do with us. And I remember her face like it was yesterday. I remember the emotion that was on her face, and it was fear. Why fear? Because we humans, people, tend to fear the unknown and unexpected. And the sounds that my dad was making in response to her questions were very unknown to her and clearly unexpected. Now, I want to distinguish between languages and sounds, because languages can be very diverse and can be very unique, but we all hear the same sounds. So what if we can agree on universal sounds for emotions, feelings, even animals? Let's imagine if I wake up tomorrow morning and teach my kids that if they want to mimic the sound of a dog, they have to say huff, huff. Or if they're in a situation where they're confused or want to ask a question, they can say, huh? And what if every single parent in the world did the same thing? What if everyone, starting from tomorrow, taught their children the same sounds? Would this lead to a generation, to a new generation of people that were now more tolerant and understanding towards each other, and specifically towards other cultures? Would this mean that we would be able to communicate with other cultures using sound? Now, I'm thinking If we all agree to do this, and if my dad walks into a store 10 years from now and encounters the same situation, and he's asked a question and he replies with his huh, because he thinks that means what, would he then be met with tolerance, sympathy, and understanding versus fear and rejection? Thank you.